Hello and welcome to the ZDC ARTCC within VATSIM and VATUSA. During this video, we will be walking you through the steps to setting up your VRC client, which is the initial client that all ATC members use to control on VATSIM. First step is navigate to the ZDC website that you would have received in an email. Click under the Controllers tab and select the Files option. You'll then see another screen that shows you a series of tabs. The last two tabs, the SOPs and LOAs, are standard operating procedures and letters of agreement. It is preferred that you review these ahead of your training sessions. VATIS, VSTARS, and VRAM are all clients, both for controlling and for weather, which will be described later on in your first session. The tab that you want to focus with now is under VRC. The first file that you want to download is the ZDC alias file. If you initially click the green button, you'll see the actual file. Instead, right-click and select Save Link As. Change it to a .txt file, and then download it to some location that you can refer to easily. The next file that you will need is the sector file. Same process as with the alias file. You want to right-click that and save Link As. And it should default to a .sct2 file. If it does not, feel free to change it, and then save it in the same location that you saved the alias file. The last file that you'll need is the ZDC POF file, which is the positions file. Same process as the first two. Right-click and select Save Link As. And ensure that that's a .pof file. And if it's not, feel free to change it and save it in the same location. Once you have downloaded those three files successfully, open up a search browser, type in VRC VATSIM download, and amongst the different results, you'll ultimately get to this page here, where you'll have two options to choose from. Either one, download the most current version. As you can see here, it's 1.2.6. Select it and download it to the same location that you downloaded the files. In a search browser, search for audio for VATSIM. And when you first click on one of the first results, you'll see this page here. Click on Update My Software. At the top, you'll see the pilot clients for P, 3D, FSX, and X-Plane. Go down to the ATC section and click on VRC. Audio for VATSIM is the new client that we use to attach to the audio enhancements and improvements that VATSIM made. The first link takes you back to the VRC download. The second link is the link for AFV. Click that, save that to the same location that you saved everything else. And the rest of this page is a quick little tutorial on setting up the audio portion for audio for VATSIM. Once all these files have been downloaded, you should have the ZDC alias file, most current version, the ZDC sector file, also the most current version, the ZDC POF file, as well as the VRC executable setup, and the audio for VATSIM executable. At this point, I would recommend that you create a new folder for VRC outside of program files. And then you want to go under View and select the box for File Extensions. Under the VRC folder that you just created, outside of program files, I would create an Audio for VATSIM folder. This keeps your program files separate and easy for you to access. Select the three files that we downloaded initially and copy and paste them into your VRC folder. Run the executable for the VRC setup. Click Agree, click Next, and then select the location that you created for your VRC folder. If you choose to use VRC in one of your non-system drives, it's the same process. Just locate the folder that you created in this process. Once you have it here, it's correct folder, click Install. It'll run through the installer and then create a desktop icon. As well as inside of your VRC folder, you'll have another VRC folder. And you'll see the executable here. At this point, we're going to open up and double-click the VRC program. Click on the default profile. Maximize the window, and then close the controllers and chat. This is the main body of your scope window. Go under File and click on Open Sector. And then in the VRC folder that you created, you should locate the sector file. It should be the only file here at this point. You can either double-click it or click Open. And it will show you the ZDC ARTCC sector boundaries for our entire ARTCC. Navigating on the scope window, right-click moves the window around based on how you want to see it. And then a zoom is either a mouse wheel in or a control pinch out. This highlights the ARTCC boundaries, both to the east, the south, west, and north. The next step is to zoom in on the Washington Dulles International Airport, one of our major airports within the ARTCC, Kilo India Alpha Delta, located right here. Zoom in and center until you get the bulk of the airport centered on your screen like this. And there are two radar modes that you'll use while you're training for S1 and S2. They are ground and tower. Go up to Settings, Radar Mode, and for now, let's select Ground. The next options under Settings are your color profiles. This is entirely your preference. If you have any questions, discuss that with your trainer when you first start. Under Settings General, we're going to load up the two remaining files that we downloaded. The first is your alias file. Select the Select button, and it should default to your VRC folder, and that should be the only file currently available. Same process for your POF file. Click it, double-click it. Under Assign Squawk Codes in Random Order, make sure that the box is checked. Your settings first window should look like this. Click Apply. Under Airspace, ensure that your viz range as an observer is no more than 150. In your arrival field, for now, enter in KIAD, KDCA, KBWI, KRIC, KRDU. These four airports are the largest four airports that we have in the ARTCC. Copy from the arrival fields and paste into the departure fields. Click Apply. Your screen should look similar to this at this point. Click OK. Go up to Save Session Profile under the Files tab and name this something to your preference. So ZDC Observing, Observer, Initial Setup. You can name it whatever you'd like. This is entirely your preference. This is something only you see. Once that part is saved, you'll see at the top where it names the profile within the quotation marks. Under View, we have a series of options, and we'll go through these during your first session. For now, if you look at mouse location, it puts the GPS coordinates for your mouse, which is only handy if you're going to make sector files or sweatbox files. Range rings don't apply. Airports. If you tick on airports and zoom out, you will see all the different airports within our ARTCC, whether small or large. Now, it may be hard to see now, so this is where we would refer back to the color profile. Modify the current. Under airports, identify a color that is not going to make you blind, like this one. These are the default that come with VRC, which are not always the greatest. Select a color profile that makes it easy for you to see the screen and all the different items in the screen without causing you to go blind. Under Modify Current, select airports again, and let's choose a less offensive color. You can also identify precise coloring based on what you like, but for now, for ease of use, let's just select this one here. The airports are now ticked on. As you can see, that's a lot of information and probably hard to digest. And if you're working at ground position, which you are when you first start, a little unnecessary other than the airport that you're at. So untick airports. If you untick the label on any option, it leaves the marker there, but removes the words that are associated with that marker. So if you leave the airports labels ticked on and then unchecked airports, this is what you'll see. As we go through all the other options, it's important to think about what you want to see as a controller. And I know it's hard to understand that now, and we'll get into more of that during your first session. The least amount of information that you see on your screen makes it the easiest for you to control. One good example is if you look at the fix and fixed labels. With all the fixes turned on within the ARTCC, your entire screen is taken up with all that information. For the most part, it's not information that you need at this time. As you expand and grow and learn, you don't need to have every fix turned on. So it's a good idea to keep your screen as clean as you possibly can keep it, which allows you to look and focus on the airport as well as the aircraft that are around your airport. Under View, the rest of the options here should look similar to that. The high boundaries are already marked. And the last option is static text. With that turned on, if you zoom back in to Kilo India Alpha Delta, you'll see the taxiways that weren't there to begin with. As a ground controller, you're responsible for ensuring the safe and efficient movement on the ground. It helps to have the taxiways marked there for you. Go back up to Settings and then General. Under the Hotkeys tab, you have 3 different options. I would leave them as default except for the Push-to-Talk key. This will be what you use to communicate with the pilots through the AFV program. Ensure that that is an option that is not currently selected to any other item in your computer. Click Apply, then click OK. And under the Flight Strip tab, you'll have a bunch of different options related to flight strips. Flight strips are something that controllers, when they're first starting and getting used to ATC, is a quick and easy tool to have a lot of information provided to you at once and allows you to ensure that you keep things organized. Your first session will discuss a little bit further the ways in which you can use flight strips. For now, select the 2-column flight strip bay, and let's move on to the next subject. Click on the Tools option within the menu bar. Underneath the tool section, you'll have multiple different panels that will provide you information at a glance, make it easier for you to get a multitude of information that helps you control. For now, click on the Flight Strip Bay. Click on Controller List. Click on Aircraft List. Click on Comms Panel. Click on Weather Panel. And click on Incoming Chat Log. As you can tell, your screen becomes very busy very quickly. A lot of this information isn't needed all the time, and so going up to the Tools section allows you to turn on the panels that you need. If you have 2 monitors or more, you can drag these to the other monitor, which makes them persistent, but also not in your way. Again, you want to keep your screen as clean as you possibly can. Let's zoom out of your screen so that you can see the entire ARTCC within the center of your view scope. And go under Views, Diagrams. Each of these will tick on different options. For example, the class Bravo. Tick on the coastline, which shows the geography around our ARTCC, and the Potomac River. For those not familiar with the DC area, the Potomac River is a rather interesting and fun feature. And it makes it easier for you to kind of get a reference of where you're at based on those geography options. Let's zoom back into Dulles. Now it's time to connect to the VATSIM network for the first time as an observer. Go up to File, down to Connect, and you're going to enter the information that VATSIM provided to you in the welcome email from them. Your certificate ID will be a series of numbers, and the password will be provided by VATSIM. Your call sign ID for observing is ZDC underscore operating initials underscore OBS, and then your real name. Select facility as observer, ranking as observer, and the server that's closest to you geographically. Your initials will be provided to you by an email from ZDC. Click Connect. Once you're connected, you'll see some language down at the bottom. To scroll back up that language, you can hit the page up where you can see I forgot my password, so you'll see we're connected incorrectly there. Once you zoom out and you're connected as an observer, you'll start to see some traffic within our RTEC. The little green icon there that are flying around and on the ground. Let's start off by clicking on American 540 and then go to Tools and Aircraft List. You'll see American 540 was arriving into Washington National, KDCA, from Boston, and his flight plan is there. Aircraft and call sign are there, and current squawk code and route. As you can see, traffic does get refreshed periodically by the network, and so you'll see them move along to your scope, and you can zoom in to see aircraft on the ground. These aircraft that have either arrived or are departing. Under Tools, click Controller and Chat, and you'll see all of the current controllers that are signed into the network. In this case, Washington Center and Washington Ground are providing coverage over KDCA Washington National, along with the KDCA ATIS. If you go under Tools and Comms panel, we're now going to set up AFV, which you have to do some steps in VRC to get to AFV. Initially, putting your position name as your controller initials and ZDC underscore OBS, and put the frequency as listed there. Click Save Changes, and then close the Communications tab. We're going to disconnect from the network. Click File, then Disconnect. Click OK, and go under Settings, General, and on the first tab, on the left-hand side, you'll see Prompt to Save Profile and Prompt Before Disconnect. For now, leave those both on. Ensure that they're on. Open up your AFV installer that you downloaded previously. Execute that. Click Next. Change the default to the folder that you created under VRC and then Audio for VATSIM. Click OK. Ensure that it's there. Click Next, and then click Install. This installer may take a little bit of time to run through, but it should be relatively quick on your system. Once the process is done, you'll see Launch as an option. Click Finish to launch. And more than likely, you'll have an update to run through the first time you open up AFV. If you don't, great, you can skip this part. If you do, click on the Update option down below. Allow it to download. It should be relatively fast. Usually the updates are, for the most part, relatively small. Click Next, the same as you did before. Ensure that that folder is the same as it was before. Click Install. And once it is done here, make sure that the box is checked to start AFV and click Finish. Once you click Finish, the program will open up. At this point, you can delete the VRC Setup executable as well as the AFV executable. Now the next step is your personal preference. If you like to have the desktop icons, you can right-click the executable for AFV and indicate Send to Desktop. So now you have a desktop for AFV and a desktop for VRC. Inside of the AFV itself, you want to click on Settings. And the same information here can be found, this initial part can be found through here in the tutorial on the AFV site if you get stuck. Into your CID. And then this time I'm sure I have the right password because I copied and pasted, which is your friend. Select your microphone, which will usually be your headset. Click the output device, which should also be your headset unless you want to go through speakers. On the mic volume slider, ensure that as you speak, your voice is in the green area. You don't want it in the red because then you're overmodulated and loud to everybody. Likewise, you don't want to be in the blue because they can't hear you then. So ensure that the bulk of your voice is through the green section. Your push to talk should be the same as you set up in VRC. So in this case, left control. Click apply. Click OK. And now you can open up VRC. Click File, Connect, and connect as normal. Thankfully, your password and CID are saved. Once you're connected to VRC, open back up AFV. Get it to a position that makes sense for you according to your screen. Under the Connect, you'll have a bunch of different options. You'll see your controller initials and ZDC observing there. If you want to listen to DC Center, go back to AFV, hit the plus, type in DC_CTR, just like it is on the controllers and chat window. Select the checkbox. And then you'll have three options, TX, RX, and XC. TX is transmit, RX is receive, and XC will be discussed later. Ensure for now that you just have RX selected. You don't want to transmit, you just want to receive. At this point, as aircraft call Washington Center and Washington Center calls those aircraft back, you'll see last received frequency as well as the last aircraft called. And then you'll start to hear sounds come through whatever method you chose, speakers or headset. And then you'll hear the controllers talking to the pilots and pilots talking back to the controllers. You can follow along as you hear and observe what's happening on the scope. You can follow along to kind of get familiar with how radio communications are handled, the flow of traffic and that type of thing. For now, we're going to disconnect and we're going to set up Sweatbox for the very first session that you'll have with your training mentor or instructor. Go back to your VRC folder after you've disconnected from VRC. Go back to your VRC folders, and the first file you'll see is servers.txt. There's big, bold words that says this file is automatically created and to not touch. So we don't want to do that. We want to create a new text file. So right-click the empty space, click New, and then Text Document. Title that as myservers.txt. Open that file up. After disconnecting and closing down VRC, and enter in sweatbox.vatsim.net space and then sweatbox in all caps. I'll leave it up here for a couple seconds for you. Once that's done, save the file, close, and reopen VRC. Connect as normal, except this time you should see Sweatbox as a server option. Select that, and then you should be connected to our Sweatbox. Sweatbox is used to simulate high volumes of traffic to get students used to controlling whatever position they're going for, S1, S2, such like that. So thank you for your attention during this video. We are excited to have you control with us and look forward to seeing you on the scopes.